He's been spending. He's sorry, I was recording. He's spending all that technology into recording, all that operating expenses, right, into the company, fine tuning the technology of battery tech, right? So running an EV company is seriously not easy, and he has been going through the hard times. And if he can run an EV company to be the most profitable car company in the world, operational margin wise, right? And it's going to be better to come. What is a company like Twitter? It's nothing. Seriously, it's nothing, right? His 3 billion stake is 10%, and they said that they'll limit him for 14.9% stake or something like that. But my point is, having someone like Elon to run a business like Twitter is someone they should pay him to come in on the board. It's as simple as that, right? And now he has ownership stake. So what I'm trying to say is business acumen is unparalleled. Turning an EV company to where it is today is one of the hardest things. Running Twitter is nothing. Man of the people, promotes free speech, right? From letting people know how much taxes, and all that. This is something that is a game changer for Twitter itself, right? So decentralization. Now he was in the call with Jack Dorsey and Mama Wood, Cathy Wood, in terms of in the B word event where he was giving his whole new perspective about Bitcoin and decentralization. So think about it also. If the world is leading to sort of decentralized markets, for example, an open ledger, right? An open ledger where you can literally see all of your all of the transactions transparently. You're not tied into a system. You're not tied into the government. Everything is decentralized. That could be good and bad, right? The good is obviously it's all transparent. The bad is obviously control, right? You got jokers trying to do whatever they want as long as everything's controlled. Now, in that world, he sees Twitter to be within that world, right? Where everything's free speech, not just for the money, right? It's for people opening up and sharing whatever they see, sharing whatever they have. And what I see, I was never using Twitter. I never used Twitter before. I was always using Facebook and Instagram. But when I've been using Twitter for the past few months, I'm thinking, holy shit, this is a whole new level. I've been learning like tons of things, and I'm in Malaysia. And in order for me to get market color, so in Malaysia, how I trade is I get market color from Telegram, from people talking in Facebook, which is very little. I don't really use Facebook nowadays a lot. I use Instagram and obviously the stock platforms that we see. But what I noticed about Twitter is that in US, especially, if I want to be knowing and being more localized, right? Knowing more about Twitter and knowing more about US, I would go to Twitter. Everyone tweets shit there. And obviously there's in every social media platform, there's going to be bad stuff, there's going to be negative stuff, there's going to be positive stuff. All you got to do is just, filter things yourself. So when I've been using Twitter, I'm like, oh, this is good. Not only do celebrities or influencers, the biggest influencer of the world, Elon Musk, tweets the things that he likes, like these nuggets of information, like so small, it's so streamlined, and it makes so much sense, right? You got a few sentences and you can already know what's happening. Obviously, you got to do your own duty, you got to do your fact check, but these are streamlined, right? It's not like Facebook where it's all crowded. And seriously, how many spams, how many nonsense ads are coming out from Facebook? I'm getting pissed off by by that. So what I'm trying to say is, like, you got I follow Ross Gerber, Elon Musk, and I'm saying that it's so easy to use. It's so the whole thing looks clean. It's very comprehensive. So when I look at all this, I'm like thinking, oh, okay, it's a different game. It's shifting towards, it's a different game for sure compared to Facebook. Facebook's all crowded, right? The UI is not even sexy. The messaging is not as simple. So what I'm trying to say is that Twitter, there is potential for sure, right? And I have the liberty to actually look into the investor at the 10K just to break down, because I never looked at Twitter before. right? Investing in the business. But just before I go into that, we can talk about, data, and free advertising for his Teslas. That's one of the pointers that I think it's a strategic move. Now he doesn't need to advertise Teslas for sure, right? He always goes for free advertising, right? It's organic growth. It's always, the high demand. But what I want to say is that this could be, which I'm not sure that it's intended, but it's free marketing for his Teslas. So I also want to go back memory lane, and Disney wanted to acquire Twitter before. That, in my opinion, because they pulled out, they did. That, in my opinion, was one of the biggest mistakes that they made. See, if you acquire a social media platform where everyone is literally using, so we got to have super apps we need to own businesses that are super apps. What are super apps? Super apps are basically the ones that use their apps every day, because you have free market share, right? I use WhatsApp every day. Now I'm using Twitter every day. Instagram, not really every day now because I'm busy, whatever, right? So what are the super apps that are actually in control of people's lives? And that's where data is formed, right? People like to tweet about what they do. People like to post about what they do. So essentially Twitter has data, right? You got social arbitrage data, which, people pay 6 figures for a year, right? You can pay Twitter for all these data, or 7 figures, I don't know. But this is where he could use this to advantage for his other businesses. Not only does he have a huge following by himself, right? But he can move his own companies. He can basically grow. The rich get richer, right? But I'm pretty sure Elon is not just for the money, right? He's helping the people. But this is one of the ways that I think is game changing for himself, for Tesla, for his brands. And by this, Disney not acquiring Twitter was in my opinion, one of the bad moves, because you can literally market easier, right? Your own companies. You can literally just get more presence, right? You could influence and have a cross sell, right? To grow Twitter by Disney's products, right? Something, along those lines. So, that's one of the things of owning Twitter. And if you have a platform, especially when I looked at the revenue recognition. So let's go to revenue recognition when it comes to Twitter. I wanted to see the geographical sort of space. I wanted to see the geographical, how many, where's the majority of the revenues coming from? Obviously, it's the US. Japan, people likes to use Japan and the rest of the world. So in Malaysia, Malays like to tweet. Chinese don't really like to tweet. Chinese in Malaysia, they like to use Facebook for some reason. It's getting overcrowded. It's getting more, messy. So that's what I think. And that's where, if we want to attack the Malay market in Twitter, that's the sort of behavior that we want to find, right? We want to see where people go and what platforms do they use. Then I realized that, okay, just by looking at this, obviously they're all over the world, but they're lacking in some places. That's why they don't command that daily active users, right? Obviously it's not as big as Facebook, but do they have the potential to be like Facebook? Now with Elon Musk in the helm, we are not, no, this is all speculation. So this is something to consider, because we don't know their moves yet. We don't know what he's been talking with Jack Dorsey, but him being in control of, their operations and movements, he can turn around this company like that, right? Not only from his influence, but just upgrading the company overall to be competing with Facebook, right? So what is Facebook lacking, and what is the hate that is actually coming in, into Facebook, right? Data usage, right? Data privacy. That's one of the things that they're actually getting a lot of hate on. And seriously, Mark Zuckerberg is not a simple man. He talks as though he's simple, but in my opinion, his investments have been shit when it comes to Oculus. That's me, all right? Don't hate me. That's what I think about the metaverse. He is a leech in a way, right? He wants, he's monetizing data. Obviously, Google is doing that as well. But what is the reason why people are getting like a mixed feelings when it comes to Facebook? is because of data privacy, which they are not really doing that well, right? When Trump or politics, they side to whoever pays more. They're getting so much hate. So think about it. In a world where data is more and more valuable and everyone wants to be more private, will a company like Facebook be trying, be able to grow more in that sort of world? Or Twitter, where you got, the man of the people, you got decentralization, right? You got freedom of speech. You have everywhere siding to, a more better world for, I mean, if you care for the people, literally, if you literally care for the people, your business is going to do well. Everything is going to come in easily. It's just going to flow in. Does that make sense? Right? So, like, why is Tesla getting so much love? People, so if you think about it, if you hate Tesla or if you're shorting Tesla, you are, in a way, promoting the world to be more polluted, a lesser green world, right? Because they have a good cause. Storage of energy, clean energy, powering the grid. EVs itself is a better world. I mean, it's better for the world, right? In terms of gas emissions and polluting and whatever. So my point is that naturally, subconsciously, other than being a sexy car company, right? They have so much as computer on wheels and blah blah blah. You guys already know, right? You don't need me to tell you about Tesla. But I will be going live for Tesla's Q1, right? So stay tuned for that. But my point is, hating on Tesla will be hating on that. In a world where everything is more decentralized and more, privacy protected, would Facebook be fitting in that world? Right? I don't care about what Metaverse is offering and what they can actually do, which is cool. And that will only realize in probably 10 years. But my point is, will they be better in that world? And will monthly active users be, more in that world or in a world like Twitter? Right? So that's something to think about. That's something to think about. The other thing to think about is revenue recognition. We have advertising services, which is peanuts, small, right? In relation to what the potential of what Facebook can do. So the bad thing about Twitter is that where is it going to go from there? What are the growth prospects? Right? People are just tweeting, they tweet what the information, they lies, because Facebook, and I'll give this about Facebook, right? And now I'm talking about Twitter versus Facebook. So Facebook, what is good about them is their mission is really strong. They can connect people, right? They're literally connecting people all over the world. I got friends in UK, I got friends in Australia and whatever. So Facebook actually makes me connected with them because I know what they're doing, right? Instagram, I know what they're doing. So Twitter has that aspect where it's lacking because maybe in the form of, videos or, the messaging that can actually have, which is small as an impact if you think about it, but will have a bigger impact overall subconsciously because you know more about your loved ones via Facebook because of what they do and what they tweet. Now, Twitter can easily replicate that. It's just that maybe there's something, there's a reason why people don't use Twitter versus Facebook at the moment, especially with the rest of the world. So I was actually I was kind of curious, like, where do the majority revenues come from? Obviously, US. I was actually curious on what other countries use Twitter. So that's why, I opened this page and I'm thinking, okay, Japan. So it's surprising why Japan was actually there, contributing 600 mil, which is, more than a little bit more than 10% of the total revenues. And the rest of the world is, 30%. So I just, I was curious and I was looking at that. I always like to look at geographical area because I need to see where they can actually grow more on and how, obviously we can increase their presence with that, right? But even in the US itself, if US can realize, like, US is all about freedom of speech, right? So they will probably use less of, Facebook and go more on Twitter, and US itself is self-sustaining. There's a huge growth from there. So I believe they can definitely grow, especially the advertising services in the US. But yeah, and then I also see what is the trend going up, right? So advertising services has been going up even during 2020. It was better than 2019. Um, Data licensing total revenues are actually growing, so it's actually not too bad in terms of revenue growth. You see them growing at least 35%. So you got, let me take out my calculator here. We have 5B. We are looking at 5077 minus 3716. 3716. We are looking at 36% increase when it comes to revenues. Not too bad for a company like Twitter, right? And the geographical space, United States is actually growing by 36%, right? 36%. So I think this is actually, well, it's good numbers, but the point is whether or not they can actually do better with Elon in the helm. So let's take a look at their income statement. And I was really surprised at this income statement. I thought they were like profitable way off, like seriously, way better than what they have. Now, in 2020, obviously everything was bad. And I'm guessing, well, a chunk of their revenue, the chunk of the cost actually goes in cost of revenue, which I'm actually surprised because that's very different from Facebook. Facebook financials are awesome. No debt company, huge cash piles, leverage and operating leverage at its best. You can see Facebook a different way, in a different light. So Facebook's more like they're running a business. Okay, let's put it that way. They know how to run a business. It's awesome. But when I see this, I'm like, okay, huge cost of revenue, R&D, sales and marketing. They still spend a lot of sales marketing. Actually, G&A is actually a good substantial 20+%. Okay, total cost and expenses. So they're actually loss making, and they made a loss of 1.1 B. And I was really surprised. I thought they were just profitable all the way. I never looked at Twitter until today. You see, I never looked at Twitter until Elon Musk is actually there. This is one of the biggest things in social media. And what better way to spread this sort of news and have influence by social media platforms, right? So in 2019, when everything was doing, the economy, in 2019, the economy was good, corporate profits were good. It's similar to what's actually happening today. You see them having a profit of 1.4, but this is the provision of income taxes. So I'm not going to consider 1B in that, but actually I want to look at income loss before income taxes. And they actually made 390 mil, which is 10%. I don't like that. Beta has much better margins. They have obviously, 30%, or I think still 20 plus 30% net profit margin. So numbers wise, Meta is there, right? Meta is like the old cool guy when it comes to their life cycle, right? They're way up in the S curve. I believe there's not much more growth unless they go into monetizing a lot of their aspects, right? Better marketplace, WhatsApp, metaverse, which I'm not really a big fan of, but okay. So then in 2021, the reason why they're actually losing money overall is because of this litigation settlement. So if not for this litigation settlement, they would actually have around 400 mil in net income, which is close to 10%. So we can safely say their margins right now at 9 to 10%. But bear in mind, everything here with Elon in the helm, in my opinion, can just be ignored. Well, not really ignored for a certain way, but because Elon here is actually game changing in a way, like we said just now, right? World of decentralization. I'm literally at the edge of my seat, like just very excited about what he has to say on changing the company, what's the transitional shift and whatnot, right? So it's very in line with what Jack Dorsey wants as well. Now, I was never really a huge Jack Dorsey fan. I actually like what he built in Square. That's why I'm invested in Square. The reason why I'm not really a Jack Dorsey fan is because he always talks about, he changes things like so quick, right? He changes things so quick. He's heavy into Bitcoin. He invests in Bitcoin. He can't really turn around. He can't pull it off. He can't really turn around a company so huge. Like he can't really break inflection points not like what Elon is doing. So with Elon there is definitely game changing, right? So we talked about a couple of points. Talked about decentralization. We talked about his business acumen. Like think about it. In this lifetime, how many? There's no doubt CEOs drive the company. Okay, CEO drives companies. If you don't like the product and we've got a great CEO, that will make a huge shift into the company anyway, because he will market as though it's a great product. But as long as that product has a good cause. So if he has the people backed up with him for a good cause, better for the people, how is that not a better product? Right? That is organic marketing. The reason why his Teslas can sell is simple. Is because they they are for a good cause, not only for the environment, but he has a good cause of actually decreasing the costs. He said before he wants to decrease the cost to probably around 25,000 per car. And that's not easy. It's not an easy task. It takes time, right? In 5 years, it could be 35,000. But now he has pricing power to say, hey, I can charge my car 65,000 and everyone will buy. That's pricing power to its best. Organic growth, good cause, biggest influencer in the world, right? It's not about a 3 billion edit button. Edit button is cool and all, right? But that's not the bigger picture. The bigger picture is actually getting data, obviously, and making a product better for the people, which in turn people will love, especially in the US. And in turn, money will come in because of more users, more advertising, and whatever. Right? It'll be cool if he actually has another shift into another new revenue stream other than just advertising, which I can't really think of right now. But advertising itself, there's so much potential there when we compare with Meta, right? So Twitter's serious ad player when it can scale. If Twitter can really scale because of its streamlined, because of its easy to use platform, it's so simple. It's Facebook is simple as well. You can argue that. But a sexier UI, a sexier platform that can that is a good cause backed up behind it, I think it's a game changer for sure. Seriously, I'm thinking about investing in Twitter right now because of this. And before I invest in Twitter, my thought process is to actually look at the past, but it's not really relevant anymore with Elon there. But obviously the same business metrics apply, right? What do they offer? What is their game plan? How do they plan to increase users, their daily active users? And I think I want to see, let's look at the MD&A. They basically summarized their daily active users, which is very small. Seriously, very, very small. Yeah, there we go. So 2021 highlights, we got total revenue of 5B and increased 37%. Advertising revenue increased 40%, which is good. Data licensing and other revenue 571. US revenue 22 billion, which is an increase of 36%. International 37%. Total ad engagement 7%, and cost per engagement 32%. Okay, so the average monetizable DAU was 217 mil for 3 months, which it's not, obviously it's not as big as Meta, but there's a lot of potential for that to grow, right? So when I read this, loss from operations was 492. I'm like, wait, what, loss? How could they be a loss? Like, what the heck is Jack Dorsey and the team doing wrong for them to be on a loss? They've been operating for so long. Seriously, that's why I'm not really a fan of Dorsey, right? When it comes to Square, his transitional shift, he had a good cause. He was helping small businesses. That was great. But now shifting entirely into, a Bitcoin company more, that makes me, think twice. But obviously Afterpay is a huge step. And it will definitely get more users. I'm obviously bullish on Cash App and, but anyway, that's Jack Dorsey. And I'm really glad. Seriously, I'm thinking like, Elon, why don't you make a move in Square and SoFi, please? But anyway, this is something to think about, right? Monetizable. I'm not going to go through, their investor relations more today. We talked about a lot. We talked about, their potential when it comes to a better world, decentralization, Twitter versus Facebook, what are the potential, correspondence we can actually have. Free advertising on Tesla is better for Elon Musk and his companies for sure. So this was actually what I extracted from Forbes. Musk said he wants Twitter to practice better free speech policies and reduce moderation attempts. Ideas running counter to what Twitter and others like Meta have done for the last several years. Yep. He also has described a desire for Twitter to become more decentralized, opening up his algorithm and allowing users to customize how content displays in their feeds. Proposals that is actually, you could turn it into a bad way because people use that to their advantage. There's so many toxic people out there, and they could just use it. And that's what Facebook is actually having. Facebook actually has been turning into a toxic place, right? From bad posts, from fake posts, bad fucking ads appearing on your screen, all this sort of stuff. So I think people will shift from Facebook to somewhere else, and they have been in TikTok, but TikTok has is another thing to talk about. So they need their brand positioning. They need a purpose, which definitely Elon will make it better, in my opinion. And as they can scale, this will be a huge ad, revenue source. Dorsey got to keep his job. So there was actually a hostile and acquisition before on Elliott Management, who's a vulture in this space. He wanted Dorsey to leave his job. Well, in my opinion, it should have been sooner. But he wanted a very ambitious, goal to be 7.5 billion in revenues and 315 million users, which is actually very doable right now. Now that Elon is in the helm, in my opinion. So yeah, we talked about that. Hopefully you guys got some value out of this. And are you guys investing in Twitter? Are you guys, thinking about investing in them? What do you guys think about this? Let me know. So I'll see you guys in the next week. I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.